So if you own an Airbnb or a hotel, there's a ton of opportunity to up your revenue through ancillary services and add-ons or just these a la carte amenities. I think that there's very tough competition in terms of room rates and in terms of Airbnb, like whole house buyouts or whatever. But very few people are doing these ancillary services that can be quite profitable. But more importantly, they're delighting your guest, which means that you're building a brand and you're getting repeat guests and they're telling their friends and so on and so forth. So think about all the different things that somebody might do in your area, whether it's massage or a chef or daily cleaning, every other day cleaning. It could be golf instruction, kiting instruction, it could be gear, equipment rental, it could be any number of things. Just know where your location is and what people are coming to do and offer these ancillary services, but don't sell them, right? Like nobody wants to be sold, nobody wants to be pushed. That gets kind of weird. But if you say, hey, you know, you're coming to do this, that, or the other. A lot of our guests have really enjoyed this on top of that. Would that be of something of interest? Like, oh yeah, tell me more. And so again, you're developing a relationship. You're trying to help. Imagine that your brother or your sister was coming to town and they'd never been there before. Now you're trying to help them have the best time. You want them to leave Jackson Hole or Palm Springs or Nosara, Costa Rica, having the best time and tell all their friends. Well, if they've never been there before, what are they missing? What should they consider doing? And even just things that don't add any revenue. I know the question revolves around revenue, but I think revenue is a byproduct of delight. So if you can make restaurant recommendations, even though there's no revenue associated with it, and they have a great meal, they'd be like, that was super helpful. And if you take a look and read our reviews, those are the kind of things that people are like, wow, they were wonderful. I really enjoyed interfacing with ABC person. They really seemed to know who I was and they knew the area really well. And my entire trip to this place was enhanced because of that experience. What's really cool, especially for an early stage startups or individual mom and pop type operation, is all of these ancillary services should have no additional cost to you. I'm not saying go out and buy all this inventory and stock it. And you've got like wine for sale and not that, but using golf as an example, if you've got a local golf course and you know, go curate who is the best golf pros, get the name of the top 2 or 3, develop a relationship with them, and then send them the business. And you can either mark up the cost or you can get a kickback from them, or you could do it for free. It depends how much revenue you're really trying to drive. But the point is that you can do this through partnerships and affiliate relationships and drive meaningful revenue. I give an example often when people ask. One of our clients spent about $40,000 on lodging at one of our properties and spent $120,000 on the ancillary add-on services for the week. So 3 times the lodging on all this other stuff. And the stuff that he'll remember is not the lodging, it's the entire everything else that he added on. Like, oh my gosh, we had 2 masseuses all day, every day. And we had 3 meals cooked by a chef. And we had instructors and yoga in the morning and DJs and fire dancers. And like, that's the stuff that delights them. The lodging is really incredible. We've got wonderful design, wonderful aesthetics, wonderful architecture. And like, that's important to get them in the door. But then once they're there, all of that stuff is like what they remember. So if you're in the hospitality business, whether it's owning and operating a hotel or Airbnbs or anything like that, in my opinion, revenue is a byproduct of delight. Meaning you might have a short-term business that's getting a lot of revenue, but if you're not delighting your guests, it's a short-term business and it's not going to have a lot of legs, and it's also not going to have a lot of goodwill or have a lot of value on the exit to somebody else. They're not going to pay a lot for it. So how do you do it? Well, if you delight guests, then you have pricing power because they're not getting that delight elsewhere. So few places are actually focusing on delighting. They're going through their standard operating procedures, and this is the way that we do it, and it's kind of generic, and you're a cog in their machine, and they might be smiling, and it's nice, and it's pleasant, and it's wonderful, but I think the future of hospitality is all about the guest and the guest experience. And so less about the hotel and the hotel standards, but more of a focus on the guest and the guest experience. And if you delight that guest, Now suddenly you have pricing power, and that delight could be through hospitality if you're interfacing with people. It could be access. I want access to that wave. I want access to that powder. I want ski in, ski out. This is the best break. This is the best fly fishing. This is the best golf course. It doesn't really matter what it is. You find their passion, and if you have an affluent client base, they're willing to pay anything, right? We've all seen and heard that, I think it's a Visa commercial where it's like, the price of this is 100, the price of this is 100, the price of this is 100, the price of this is priceless. So find those priceless moments with the right clientele, and now all of a sudden you have pricing power. And I'm not saying to, overcharge and get into a situation that's not fair, but I know for myself personally, and everything that we do at Stomp and all of my businesses really focus around me. So if somebody is going to delight my child, whether it's when they were young, chicken fingers and a balloon and a whatever, I'll pay for that. I'm not going to say that's worth $17 and you're charging me $19 and I don't like it. It's like, yeah, bring the balloons. Fine, charge me $22. Make them smile, make them laugh, have their kids, all their friends have a wonderful time. Like, I will pay for that. And so the more that you delight, the more pricing power you have, the more that they will tell their friends, the more repeat business, the more your brand is worth. When you go and sell your brand, or exit the real estate, the more it's worth because of all the goodwill that you've built. But most people focus on the revenue, and then delight is secondary. And I think if you focus on the delight, the revenue follows. So the first thing I would share is that it really starts with knowing who's coming and why they're coming. And so one of the things we like to ask is, what does success look like? Because I'm one individual, and if I'm traveling with my team, success looks very different than if I'm traveling with my family, which looks very different than if I'm traveling with my fiance. So one individual, but 3 different use cases, and success looks very different. And so we try and understand what success looks like, what you're coming for, what would make your day. And we call this all proactive hospitality. So we start with onboarding the guest and understanding what they're coming for, what they'd like to do, what they don't want to do. And then we try and tailor, create a custom bespoke itinerary for them with all of the a la carte amenities that they'd really like. And so some of the things that we do come from listening. So it's not us pushing an agenda. It's not us selling. It's not us upselling. It's us asking, what does success look like, and listening to those clues. And what I would share with you from preliminary research that we've been doing, it's moments of surprise that delight and create memories, right? So it's the unexpected. And what I'll share with you, answering some of the questions earlier as an example, what most hospitality companies and hotels will do to delight their guests and make them feel special like a VIP is put a bottle of champagne or something like that in your room, and then they can check the task, like, we took care of our VIP, he's going to be really surprised, he's going to be delighted, check. And what I would share with you again, and we spend a lot of time thinking about transactions versus relationships, that's kind of transactional, right? Like, if you are a VIP, that's not the first time that's happened. It's probably not the last time that's happened. It doesn't minimize the gratitude that I would express for somebody sharing and gifting me something, but it's not that original. And therefore, the quality of my gratitude and the depth of my gratitude isn't all that amazing. Contrast that with something where somebody's done something completely unexpected because they've taken the initiative and they've done some research or they've listened to something that I've said. And when that comes back as a surprise, it's really delightful. And it also, in many cases, doesn't have a monetary value. So it's not transactional. So let me give you an example. My fiance and I checked into the Maybourne Riviera, which is a Claridge's hotel, brand new in the south of France. And we wanted to go down there and check out Claridge's expansion into the south of France. Claridge's, for many, is considered one of the most hospitable brands, the most reliable, absolutely delightful. It's where I stay in London and have for decades. It's incredible. So I wanted to go check out their new hotel. And when we checked in, they asked, what brings you here? And I said, oh, we just got engaged and so on, and told them a little story, and they were super happy. And they left us a bottle of champagne, which was to kind of be expected at that point, right? Like, I don't want to minimize it, but it wasn't a huge surprise. But the next day, we had chartered a boat. We were out for the day, and the captain took a photo of us on the boat. And when we got back to land, we went up to our hotel room, and what we found was all these balloons with printed versions of photos of us that they took from my Instagram and the photo from the captain. And Erica just started crying. I'm getting emotional just speaking about it. There was no cost associated with that, right? It was literally just printing 8 photos and putting them on balloons and surprising us when we walked into our room. And here I am sharing it with you. I've filmed other videos about it. I've told the story a million times. And it starts from listening and then being creative and resourceful, going to my Instagram account, printing it out, putting up some balloons. The whole thing cost what, $5? And yet it moved and changed everything. So these little touch points make a huge difference. And that's what creates brand loyalty, and me telling the story and me going back to that hotel, me going back to Claridge's. And I would never share any of that if it was just, here's a bottle of champagne. Not to mention that I don't actually drink, and a lot of people don't drink. Drinking is becoming less and less popular going forward. So in many ways, you might be putting your foot in your mouth. It's the exact opposite of hospitality. Like, you know what? You're lactose intolerant? Here's a nice cheese plate. Like, that fell a little flat, right? I'll give you another example. In my prior life, I ran a company called Brilliant Transportation. We were a really high-end service. We transported the who's who of celebrities and musicians and real estate professional, hedge fund people. And our flagship vehicle was a Brilliant van. It was a Sprinter van. We were the first people to do it. We custom converted it so that it looked like a private jet on wheels. And so like that was our flagship model. We also offered Cadillac Escalades, and sometimes a VIP guest would try and book a Cadillac Escalade, I don't know, to go to the airport or something, and we'd be sold out. And so the people on my team would graciously say, we've upgraded you, we've given you this van, which is an upgrade in terms of cost, it's an upgrade in terms of bling, it's just like, it's this big thing and it's really wonderful. And most people would think that that's a really wonderful upgrade and a gift. However, there are clients of ours that would not want to be in that because it was too big or it was too flashy. They wanted to be anonymous. They wanted to be discreet. They wanted to come and go real quick. So they booked a regular black car that nobody would pay any attention to. And so even though, say, the reservation agent was trying to do them a favor, thought she was doing them like, hey, this is twice the price. This is a great upgrade. For the wrong client, it's a downgrade. It's exactly what they don't want. And so it's really important that you know who you're giving the gift to and what their preferences are. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. It starts with the gift recipient, and that's the most important thing.